Hi, Melanie here, and in this tutorial I'm showing you how to make these amazing leprechauns. I'm inflating two 5-inch balloons to 5 inches in diameter, and for me that's 5 strokes of this hand pump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remove the balloon straight away from the hand pump, otherwise you will lose air through the body of the pump and the balloon will deflate slightly. Tie the two balloons together, cross the necks over one another, wrap around once, wrap around twice and tie. Connect your two balloons together at the centre and then just pass one of the green balloons over the top of the black balloons, and that's going to connect them together. I've inflated another cluster to 4.5 inches in diameter, and I'm just going to connect the two clusters together just by pulling out one of the necks from the lower layer, placing my smaller cluster on the top. I'm ensuring that the top balloons sit in between two balloons on the lower layer, and then I'm just going to take that neck, stretch it out and just wrap it around the balloons in this cluster, and then I can just let that go. And I've made a small water weight. If you want to know how to make water weights, I'll leave a link in the description below to my tutorial. And I'm just going to stretch out the inner neck, pull that water weight into the centre so it sits nicely there, and then pull the neck up and again just wrap that neck around the balloons. Okay. I've inflated my next 4 clusters to 4.5 inches in diameter, and if you're using the same balloon hand pump as I am, that's 4 full strokes of this hand pump. So just pull one of the necks from the lower cluster, stretch that upwards and place your next cluster on the top and just wrap the neck around the balloons in the upper cluster to secure everything. So again, making sure that the balloon in the upper cluster sits between these two balloons in the lower cluster. For my next cluster, I want to ensure this orange balloon lines up with this balloon in between the two black shoes. So I'm just attaching the cluster in exactly the same way, wrapping that neck around. Another cluster. And another 4.5 inch cluster. I've inflated this 5-inch balloon to 3.5 inches in diameter, and for me that's 2 strokes of my balloon hand pump. So then just pull the neck into your sculpture and just wrap that neck around one of those orange balloons at the side. It's easier to do if you can see what you're doing. Okay, and then let go, and there we go. I've inflated my next 2 clusters to 3.5 inches. And so I'm just attaching that in exactly the same way, and once you get the hang of attaching the clusters together, this design goes together really very quickly. And I've inflated my last cluster to 4.5 inches because I just want the top of my leprechaun's hat to flare out slightly. And I'm inflating one more balloon with just 1 stroke of the hand pump. Tie that off. And you may just need to stretch out the latex a little bit to bring out the shine. And I'm just attaching this to the top, pull it through into the cluster below, the 2 clusters below, and wrap that around. For the hat brim, I'm using a 350, a 360 will work perfectly well, and I've inflated to a tail of just 1 finger. If you don't have the 350s, then use a 260 instead. You will just get a smaller hat brim. Okay, so pull that over the top of your leprechaun's nose and bring the two ends together at the back and just tie those together. Okay. And if you feel that looks a little bit unsightly at the back with the knot there, then one thing we can do is just take a round balloon. So I've inflated this 5-inch to 3.5 inches in diameter, and then we're just going to split this in half. So just grab hold of the balloon, grasp it and twist in the center. Okay, and then you can take that neck, wrap it around a few times. And if you want, you can tie that into a knot. Okay, and then you can just take that split, pass it underneath here and just wrap it around, and that's just going to disguise that connection. I've inflated a 260 twisting balloon to a tail of about 4 fingers, and I'm just going to wrap this around the gnome's hat. I just want to ensure that the connection is over the nose, which I don't think it is. So just let's line that up a little bit better. Put a split in the rest of your balloon there, in that bubble there, and then wrap the neck and nozzle around a couple of times, and then you can just snip off the end and tie that into a knot. And I'm just going to tie this twice. Okay, and then I was more than a little bit off center, so I'm just going to move this around so that the split here is lined up above the nose, and then I can just trim off this little bit of excess here. I'm now inflating a 5-inch balloon with just one stroke of the hand pump, so that's approximately 3 inches in diameter. Okay, and we're going to split this. So I'm going to grasp the balloon with my hands on either side of the knot, and my hands are going to twist in opposite directions. So this hand will twist this way, that hand will twist that way. Okay, so grasp firmly and twist. Okay, so we're splitting that in half approximately, and then take hold of that knot and nozzle, wrap around and tie. Okay, so you've got this split duplet, and then just pass that join and wrap it around there. For the arms, I'm inflating a 350 with 3 strokes of the hand pump, so that's a bubble of about 6 inches, and tie and inflate a 5-inch balloon to 3 inches in diameter, and just tie that. Okay, and then we're going to squish that balloon a little bit, grasp hold of it in here, quite a little bit off center, and then just twist a bubble. Okay, so you've got a bubble there that's about 3 fingers in size, and then just grasp hold of the knot and pull it down towards this split, and then pull this bubble upwards and twist it around. Okay, and that's just going to hold in position. And then take the knot and nozzle from your green balloon and wrap that into that split there in the hand. Okay, so you've created a little hand and a small thumb, and then we can just twist this balloon here, snip off the end, and then tie. I've inflated a 160 balloon to a 2-finger tail. If you don't have a 160, then use a 260 instead, or alternatively you can skip this part altogether. I'm just making a small cuff for the bottom of the sleeve. I think it looks nice. So I've wrapped the balloon around, and I'm just going to put a twist there. Just twist that around And then I'm just going to break off this balloon, and I can save this. I can use this for the other arm. Sometimes it doesn't work. And then you can tie this and tie that twice. And then I'm just going to snip off these messy bits here. But don't cut too close to the knot. And make another one of these. And then tie those arms together. And make sure that that knot is nice and secure, okay? So then we can pull our arms into the sculpture just below the nose. Just pull those in, round, and you can take up some of the slack just by wrapping one of the arms around one of the green 5-inch balloons, okay? I've got a 260 twisting balloon here, and I'm just going to wrap that into the hand here, wrap that around, and then I'm going to pull, just going to pass that underneath the cuff, and then I'm going to pull the hand forward, so across the tummy area with this 260, okay. And I'm just going to take a look. And then bring the other arm forward and wrap that 260 into the wrist. Okay, and then you can tie a knot. And we can trim off the excess. I've inflated a 260 to a 5-finger tail, and I'm just going to pass that 260 underneath the arms and take it around the back and pass it underneath the other arm. Whoops! So if you want to, you can actually put the belt on before you draw the arms into the sides. But I wanted to make sure that the arms were really cinched in closely. So it just depends how you want to do it on the day. Okay, so we can make a twist here in the 260. And then wrap that knot and nozzle around, snip off the end and tie. So you want this split here to be lined up in the centre of this green balloon. Trim away the excess, and for the buckle, inflate a shiny balloon, a metallic balloon with one stroke of the hand pump, so to about 3 inches. And we're going to split this. So again, put your fingers on either side of the knot and grasp hold firmly and twist confidently, and then wrap that neck around and you can tie. Okay. So that gives us our split duplet for our buckle, and we can just pass that underneath the split here and wrap those around. For the shoe buckles, inflate with one stroke of the hand pump to 3 inches, and then I want to make some smaller buckles, so I'm just going to let the air out a little bit and then tie. Okay, so that's about 4 fingers. And then make another one of those. So inflate with 1 stroke of the hand pump and then just let out a little bit of air and just have a look and compare as best you can to create 2 bubbles that are very similar in size. I'm going to do the same technique of splitting the bubbles in half and then wrapping the neck around and tying a knot. And then take a 160 or a 260 and just tie that onto the nozzle. Okay. And then make another split duplet with your other balloon. So just grasp hold of that, twist it around, wrap the neck around, tie. Okay, so hang on to that. I like to hang on just between my little finger and ring finger, and then take the excess here, pull that into the front of your gnome here. Just wrap this excess here around that green balloon. Okay, and bring it over to the other side. And then you can take your other buckle and just wrap that into the excess 260 or 160. Wrap that around, and then I'm just going to tie, onto the nozzle there. And then just trim away the excess. And then just position the bubbles so they're pointing downwards. For my pot of gold, I'm going to inflate this 5-inch balloon all the way. Okay, so we want to stretch out the latex until the balloon starts to appear a rather light bulb shape. And then we want to let out some of the air, quite a lot of the air. Okay, so let a little bit more out. And the test really is whether you can squeeze the air into the neck and then push your fingers towards the bottom inside the balloon. Okay, once you can do that, you can tie a knot, tie a soft knot, by which I mean don't pull the knot tightly, okay? Because that enables me to grab hold of that knot and roll it along the neck of the balloon towards the nozzle, okay? Which gives me space to do this. I'm inflating a 5-inch balloon with just 1 stroke of my hand pump. So if you're using the same hand pump as me, that's 1 stroke. Otherwise, to a size of about 4-5 fingers or 3 inches in diameter, okay, and tie. And we're going to split this bubble approximately in half. So place your fingers either side of that knot and nozzle, and we're going to rotate our hands in opposite directions, okay? So this hand is going to rotate this way and this hand that way, and we'll twist this balloon. And don't worry if you don't get bubbles that are equal, it really doesn't matter. So I'm just twisting, can you see? And splitting that in half, okay? And then I'm going to take that neck and nozzle and wrap it around. Okay, so you can see that those bubbles, they're not equally split. That doesn't matter for this design. I'm just going to hang on to that between my ring and little finger. I'm inflating another balloon in the same way, tying that. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. So it's another opportunity to practice this technique. And again, it doesn't matter whether the bubbles are equal in size. So just grasp hold of the balloon and twist. So be firm and twist. Twist that around and then take hold of that neck and wrap hold of that, okay? And then we can take these sections here and twist them together. So just connect them together and twist round. Okay, so this is what you've got. We can put this aside. I'm going to inflate one more balloon. So again, we're practicing this technique. This is a great design for practicing this technique actually, because so often when we're making these, what I call split duplets, you're wanting the bubbles to be as close in size as possible. So you're wanting two fairly evenly sized bubbles. And with this as design, that doesn't matter. So it's a great opportunity just to practice this technique and just get the hang of twisting those bubbles. So just grasp hold and twist. Okay. And then take the neck and nozzle and wrap that around. I now want to connect this duplet to this cluster. So I'm just going to get hold of this neck and nozzle and pull it into the center of that cluster of loops. Okay, and if you want to, you can also just swap places with two of the bubbles. So this is one of the bubbles from the duplet, and we're just going to trade places with one of the bubbles in the cluster. Okay, so there you go, that's what you've got. I've cut a 5-inch piece of 260. We've got the nozzle here, and then just wrap the cut end into that cluster of bubbles. So just wrap it around a few times. Okay. Place the nozzle from your 260 onto the nozzle of your balloon that's going to be the base of your pot of gold, and just push the two nozzles into the center of the balloon and push through to the base here. And then when you can, just grasp hold of those knots and nozzles, and you can remove your finger and make a twist. Okay, take hold of a little piece of 160 or 260 and wrap that around those nozzles. So I'm holding onto the nozzles with this hand, and with the 160 or 260 I'm wrapping around those knots and nozzles, okay, on this side. And then take hold of these ends and tie them into a knot. Okay, and then once you've tied once, tie a second time. If you're going to attach your pot of gold to a display, then you might want to keep these little tails to help you attach that to a display. I don't need them, so I'm just cutting away the excess, but don't cut too closely to your knots. I've inflated a 260 to a long tail. We're not going to use all of this, and I'm just going to encircle the base of the pot of gold with this balloon. Okay, so just wrap it around, and at this point here you can just twist that knot and nozzle into the balloon, okay, and then pass that knot and nozzle underneath the twist that you've just made. Okay, then you can snip away the end and tie these together. Okay, and I like to tie twice. And we can trim away the excess, but again, don't cut too closely to the knots. I'm tying a 260 onto the split here, and then I'm just going to pull that underneath the gnome's arm and pull the pot of gold into the body, and then I'm going to take that 260 back round and wrap that into the gold at the base here.